طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Good day everyone, and welcome to our session today. We're very happy to have you with us. Today we have a fundamentals presentation, and we're very delighted to have you with us. I hope you're going to enjoy our program today. طبعا today it's fundamentals of project management. Our speaker is Mr. Mohammed Jamal. Mohammed Jamal has he works as a leadership principal and regional operational manager with the Safety 24/7 training. Mr. Mohammed has 14 years as a leadership, management, and soft skill and behavior training. I hope you enjoyed the program today, and again, welcome and thank you for being with us. And hopefully today you'll also get the PDU for attending this session. We hope you enjoy it. Mr. Mohammed has an exciting event for us today, and inshallah he will interact with the attendees as we go. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the microphone to Mr. Mohammed Jamal for his presentation.
Thank you so much, Nasser, and thank you for the introduction. Welcome, everyone. July 16, 1969. Interesting, the whole world was watching with trepidation and wonder as the famous astronauts that we all know, Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, and Buzz Aldrin, climbed into the spacecraft in one of the decade's most awaited moment to put a man on the moon and land him back safely. كانت لحظة من اللحظات اللي الجيل الستينات وجيل الخمسينات كله كان عايشها، إن هو يشوف أول شخص طالع على القمر. في مهمة عرفت ب Apollo 11. The project Apollo mission went down in history فعلا as one of the mankind's biggest technological achievements, ladies and gentlemen. Even today, when you hear interviews about Apollo 11, when you listen to documentaries, some people quote it as one of the most talked about projects that ever took place. The whole thing started مع Dwight Eisenhower اللي عمل أو who founded NASA, and was sparked by Kennedy's ambition and Kennedy's vision to land the first man on the moon. But that being said, Apollo 11 project wasn't without its risks and uncertainties. It laid down a lot of factors later on that made us understand that we can literally create guidelines. احنا فعلا ممكن نخلق guidelines تساعدنا في project management. And that there was the story behind Apollo 11. Thank you so much for being here today. As Nasser said, we're going to take you in the next 1 hour 15 minutes to talk about some fundamentals of project management أو بعض أساسيات علم إدارة المشاريع، وهو علم وفن زي ما هنشوف كمان شوية. For the next 1 hour and 15 minutes. The whole thing that started Apollo was again a guideline for us to create that discipline of what we call project management. بس عشان نعرف برضو ladies and gentlemen, to land that person on the moon, there was a whole team behind it. Actually, at some point of time, some people claim that NASA had 4 million people work in NASA that again ran their operations. The project management landscape today has been shaped by several factors. Actually, one of them is how successful previous projects ran and achieved its mission. Project Apollo is no different than any of these, with project managers today drawing inspiration from the experiences of their predecessors. a lot of project managers today بيبصوا على ال predecessors projects او projects اللي مرت قبل كده وبنحاول نتعلم منها. يعني I always say, and you're going to see me repeating this, teacher is the best history. And that's what we're trying to do today. Just looking at some fundamentals. We're not going into depth. So there will not be a lot of in-depth technical information as much as يعني as a refreshment or talk about fundamentals of project management. But going back to Apollo, while the launch of the Russian satellite Sputnik, بعد ما الروس عملوا الساتلايت بتاعهم سبوتنيك، هو ده اللي ابتدى الامبيشن بتاع to start Apollo. However, there was a lot of research into the feasibility of the mission, as was the project undertaking qualifying and quantifying. يعني زي ما انتم عارفين ال quality وال quantity are important aspects of what we do. But qualifying and quantifying was the stake. What is crucial in order to implement that? It's worth remembering ساعتها يعني خلينا نقول ان ما كانش في حاجه اسمها project selection methods that we follow today. أو كان في any project management offices that will help people make that decision. There were only two authorities back then during Apollo: NASA, that's the first one, and the chief engineers that helped NASA, which made us يعني understand and helped us build good lessons from what happened with Apollo. يعني أول درس ممكن نفكر فيه هو planning ahead. The Apollo project عشان يقدروا to pull out a project like that, interestingly, it was broken down into 3 phases. الفيز الأولانية قرروا إن إحنا هنشوف ونتست الماتيريال سيفتي، وتست the material safety, quality, strengths, while the deliverable of the second phase, when they came to the second phase, was more about how can we circle the orbit. And the third phase, بالرغم إنها might seem very simple, but actually it was one of the reasons that set back the project أو يعني أخرتنا في أو أخرت أبولو في تسليم البروجكت. كانت when will be the perfect time to do that. So these were the 3 phases that were broken down within NASA. Given the project planning that we all know, it's all about analyzing the scope, workability, cost, time, data, resources, and skills needed to allocate to the project. The takeaway here يعني اللي ممكن نتعلمه هنا is that creating a list of phases and deliverables to be met makes it easier for you to define the priorities, which is very important. بتخليك تعرف تحدد أولوياتك في المشروع هتبقى عاملة إزاي. As well as confine the project to limits. تعرف تحط limits للبروجكت بتاعك. And that was the first lesson, plan ahead. Then centralized processes. One of the project management institution, PMI roles and responsibilities today is to standardize, give us some guidelines, some standard process to keep project delivery sustainable. The project was successful because there was demonstrating how technical capabilities can be leveraged from a leadership perspective. بمعنى ايه؟ يعني كان مهم قوي في الاخر ان احنا نعرف يبقى عندنا standard technical procedures that we follow with a good leadership perspective on how to use those and how to leverage those technical aspects. And that was the second point. You always in your projects, you need to centralize processes. You need to have standards. You need to put people into a framework that they can work in. Then my favorite lesson is the third lesson بصراحة. يعني من أكتر lessons اللي عجبتني هو الدرس الثالث. Facilitate team decisions making skills. Typically, for any project, team dynamics and joint efforts are key to project delivery. After all, you need the right hands on deck in the event of a glitch. لما بيحصل أي مشكلة، أنت عايز الناس القوية معاك، الناس اللي بتعرف تساعدك. In fact, the Apollo project faced its very first error. يعني أول حادث مر على project Apollo did not go very smoothly the whole way. يعني أول حادث مر عليهم when the spacecraft ran low on fuel. فده خلى إن to veer or to land 9 miles away from the planned landing strip. خلاهم يلاندوا بعيد شوية عن اللاندنج ستريب اللي كانوا عاملين حسابهم. القصة دي حصلت ليه؟ It was a computer glitch. يعني it was because of the overload on computers. However, it was the control room back on Earth that identified this. عرفوا الخطأ اللي حصل دوت and restored calm. رجعوا الناس back to calm once again. الدرس اللي ممكن نفكر فيه هنا empowering a team's decision making ability. Many times during a project, you need a team who can make a decision. As we said earlier, during a split time of a decision, sometimes you need them to make that decision. So empowering your team to make those decisions puts projects back on track, especially when you as a managerial authority is absent or you're unavailable in a time crunch. For one, it brings in different work perspectives, and that's what's gonna help us. يعني في الآخر أنت عايز ناس فعلا بتعرف تاخد قرارات في وقت أنت مش available فيه. وهي دي أهمية empowering your team. اللسن اللي بعد كده setting realistic expectations. يعني depending on the scale of project and differing interests من ال stakeholders زي ما هنتكلم مين هم ال stakeholders. It's natural that expectations would ride high. ساعات كتير expectations بتعلى. But from the point of calling a project successful, a lot of من ال elements اللي هتساعدنا ان احنا نخلي البروجكت successful بيعتمدوا على الانفولفمنت والاويرنس بتاع البروجكتس بروجرس. الستيك هولدرز الناس اللي متابعه البروجكت سواء البروجكت تيم او الانيشيتورز او هو ايفر ازاي بيتابعوا البروجرس وفاهمين البروجكت ماشي ازاي. A good example for this, take Kennedy with Dr. Robert. Their interactions, for example, while Kennedy was keen on protecting يعني الناشونال انترست بتاعت بلده ساعتها، كل اللي كان هامم دكتور روبرت هو ازاي نالوكيت الريسورسز عشان نقدر نعمل البروجكت ده. وده اعتمد عليه ان في الاخر كندي قدر يالوكيت all the resources. I told you at some point of time there were 4 million people working in NASA. فالدرس هنا setting realistic expectations begins with keeping lines of communication. You always need to communicate to make sure we're having realistic expectations, and more importantly, we're sharing the same expectations. Another thing was assessing risks. طبعا كلنا عارفين ان one of the elements of a successful project management is risks. So assessing your risk appetite is key to project health. This includes بقى انك تعمل profiling للrisks بتاعك, even the ones that seem improbable. ساعات كتير الريسك لا ده عمره ما هيحصل. لا this is a very unlikely event to happen. Still you need to put that into consideration. ان قبل مثلا Apollo 11 project would commence, there was project risks. The first of which concerned the lunar model being built. هنبني اللونر موديل ده ازاي؟ وعلى قد ما كان كل حاجه by science has been proven, they've taken into consideration each risk that might happen. That what helps them build such model, the lunar model. Then the last lesson we can talk about on that particular part is recording lessons learned. As you've seen me saying يعني a few minutes ago, teacher, history is your best teacher, ladies and gentlemen. The more you know about what happened and the more you extract lessons from the events happen, it definitely help you build much better project management techniques. So from a live broadcasting of Neil Armstrong's famous moonwalk, يعني عارفين ساعتها كان في لايف برودكاستنج لنيل ارمسترونج هينزل على القمر وماشي اول خطوات, وحتى قال جملته الشهيره ممكن تبقى خطوه صغيره لبني ادم بس هي قفزه كبيره للهيومانيتي او للمانكايند يعني. فكان كل حاجه ان ابولو's being recorded, من اللايف برودكاستنج لكل بريس ريليس اتعمل لكل مشكله اتقابلت, everything is being recorded. And that actually helped them so much later on build NASA processes and procedures. So documenting your project particular lets you يعني your project particulars, it makes you and helps you organize data in a concise and accessible format for everyone to be able to access. And what's more, keeping track of improvements, لما تعرف keep track لكل الامبروفمنت اللي انت بتمر بيه في الاخر, ده بيساعدك جدا and helps your team to keep a record of their learning and keep a record of their learning curve. This way leaders are aware of tasks and skills leveraged, enabling holistic measure. يعني holistic شيء جمعي, شيء نقدر كلنا نبص عليه في نفس الوقت, that has collective experiences of others. So that was Apollo. يعني Apollo فعلا كانت نقطة فاصلة في التاريخ البشري، وزي ما قلت لكم اتقال عليها one of the most advanced or one of the most technological achievements to send the first person on the moon. قصة من القصص فاكرها كانت بتبين قد ايه sharing vision is important في وقت البروجكت مانجمنت. كينيدي وهو في ناسا مرة while he was in NASA he has seen one of the janitors just swiping the floor، يعني حد بيساعد في الهاوس كيبنج بتاعت المكان. And he asked him a very interesting question. He asked him, "What are you doing here? What's your job here?" And the guy even had a much more interesting answer. When he answered, he said, "I'm helping land the first man on the moon." فبيبين لك قد ايه when you have everyone on the same vision when it comes to project management, it helps you reach your goal and it helps you achieve the goals you have from such project. In the past few decades في الكام عقد اللي فاتوا organizations have discovered something incredible. يعني شوية principles كده وشوية مبادئ تقدر تساعدنا زي ما هننجح البروجكتس الكبيرة. It also helps us to apply it on many types of projects and make it successful. But don't forget يعني ماكيافيلي مرة قال برضو he's an important philosopher. He said it must be considered that there is nothing more difficult to carry out nor more doubtful of success nor more dangerous to handle than to initiate a new order of things. من أصعب الأمور اللي ممكن الشخص يمر بيها أو طبيعتنا البشرية تمر بيها إنك تبتدي حاجة جديدة. Change has always been one of the most things that people fear. And creating new things is a kind of change. So again, going through the fundamentals today, we're going to look at some of the fundamentals or the major fundamentals of project management and how it's being used over in different projects. So we have 4 objectives for these for today's webinar, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to define what is a project. We're going to define what is project management and talk about project managers, and that has always been my point of interest. يعني أنا شايف دايما من أهم الelements اللي بتنجح أي project إن لم يكن الأهم هو the project manager and the culture he creates inside his team, and the processes and the structure and the framework he built and his understanding, and he's willing to listen. We'll be talking about all of that today, and we're going to even bring an interesting piece for an article that was written by a guy called Steve Miller talking about the 7 habits of project managers. ممكن بعضكم يكون سمع عن 7 habits of highly effective people. One of the most famous books that was written in the art of human development. اتكلم عن النقطة دي specifically. Steve Miller had 7 habits دول, and he have put them in a framework that talks about project managers. So that's our first objective, is some definitions and some terminology that we need to understand. We'll also talk about the PMI, يعني the host for today's webinar, and how PMI had a great input for what project management came to what we have today. يعني PMI all over the years, they had great input عشان يخلوا البروجكت مانجمنت بالستاندردز اللي احنا شايفينها النهارده. So we'll talk about the PMI, we'll talk about project management body of knowledge. ده كده زي الكتاب التأسيسي لكل البروجكت مانجمنت او الفاونديشنال book for the whole project management. We'll also talk about the 5 process groups and 10 knowledge areas as defined by the PMI. And we'll also describe the triple constraint. So before we get started, let's make sure we understand just what we mean by project and by project management. We'll also look at what project manager's role is. في كتابه Art of War, Sun Tzu, one of the very interesting people who wrote about war in the business area, he said that do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory. مش معنى ان انت نجحت مرة بتاكتكس معينة, you always need to apply those same tactics. But you need to always let your methods and let the way things are regulate by the infinite variety of circumstances. Always look at your circumstances. Right. To start that, let me ask you, what is a project? What are the characteristics of project? As you can see here, we brought the four most important or four very defined characteristics of projects to make you understand them. A project is a limited endeavor. مسعى محدود. شيء ليه بداية وليه نهاية. And you all know probably that about project. And it's undertaken to meet particular goals and objectives. So projects are different than processes or everyday operations. مش معنى ان انت شغال على شيء ده معناه ان هو it's a normal operation. Project is totally different from the normal operation. So it's not the permanent or semi-permanent functions that we have in our business, such as HR, finance, operations. And in order to understand what is a project and their characteristics, let's look at that. The first thing is clear goals. Always project need to start with a clear goals. لازم عندك أهداف واضحة جدا لأي project. Defined ownership and responsibility. Who's responsible for what and what? Whose ownership? Who's owning this project? Timeline طبعا زي ما اتفقنا. Dedicated team. أي project محتاج dedicated team أو person to undertake it. Define methodology. الميثودولوجي اللي هتمشي عليها في البروجكت وزي ما هنشوف في project management there are some different methodologies to follow. Controlled execution. ازاي الاكسكيوشن بتاعك هيبقى انت you have full control over it. More importantly, completion evaluation based on an original plan. But how would I evaluate my progress on the project? You always need to have a reference, an original plan, and they call it so many things, but you always need to get back to the original plan to evaluate your project progress. Link to business objectives. ما ينفعش تبقى بتعمل project ومالوش أي علاقة بالbusiness. And finally, and most important from my point of view, is supported by an organization management team. You will not be able to pull out a successful project من غير ما يكون عندك support من organization management team. So these are mainly the project characteristics to define a project. So when we think about project management, I love a definition that says it's the combined art and science. يعني احنا مش بنتكلم على حاجه pure science. طبعا في standards وفي procedures وفي methodology وفي a lot of science behind project management. بس في نفس الوقت it's an art. It's a gut feeling. It's something that's being driven by your passion as well. It's an art of finding the impossible and how to do it and how to manage the constraints. when نتكلم على three constraints اللي عندنا resources, how to manage those constraints to achieve at the end your project goal. So it is the combined art and science of planning, organizing, managing resources to get a particular project done on time, within budget, and achieving the results that you set at the beginning. As we said, there are again many types of project management. في أنواع كتير من project management designed for different scenarios. فكل نوع من project management can be used in a different scenario and a different industry, of course. But at the end, there is a traditional way of doing it that has been identified by PMI, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Right. Before moving, I'm going to ask you to answer a quick poll question. So I'm going to give you 1 minute. Have a look at the poll, and please, everyone, share your input, starting now. So let me share with you, 81% answered the same, which is the first one. But let's take it from below. Maintain focus while writing down information during the project's many meetings. Again, maintaining focus is important, and this could be someone who helps the project manager, who could be the project manager himself, but it's not the whole thing for a project manager. If we look at the next one from below, أو لو بصينا على تاني واحدة, giving a brief explanation of the purpose of the meeting and an idea of what you're looking. Again, that's not a project manager. Project manager is much more holistic than that. Focused on consistent and permanent projects that the company needs on a rolling basis, which is true, and it's a big part of what the project manager do, but it's not everything. بس لو بصينا على الإجابة اللي انتوا كلكم اخترتوها اللي هي رقم 1, which is the right answer, balancing what the customer wants and needs and what the team can provide in a particular time frame and a particular budget. And that's an ongoing process, everyday process for the project manager. Thank you for answering that. So a project manager is the person responsible and accountable for accomplishing the stated project objectives. Responsibilities including creating clear and attainable project objectives, ودي أول حاجة لازم يبقى واضح وحاطط objectives واضحة. Building the project requirements اللي احنا محتاجينه في البروجكت ده. وmanaging the triple constraint اللي هنتكلم عليهم after a few minutes. The project manager is often required to perform a juggling act, balancing what the customer wants, ودي من أهم elements اللي عنده, what the customer wants, and needs with what the team can provide. زي ما انتوا جاوبتوا بالظبط. A successful project manager has a hodgepodge of skills and continuous learning. He always try to keep learning of what's happening. شوية skills that will help project manager be successful. رقم 1 وأهمهم leadership. You will not be able to carry everything out by yourself. Leadership is what it all takes, is a big element of your success. يعني خلوني أقول لكم دايما أكبر صعوبة الناس دايما بتفتكر لما when they are being promoted الموضوع هيبقى أسهل, which is totally يعني not very realistic. I'll give you an example. When you are the person doing this thing, لما أنت بتبقى الشخص اللي بتسوي الشيء بنفسك, it's easy. You just think about it and you get to do it yourself with your own hands. بس لما بتصبح الليدر اللي بيحصل بعد كده ان انت محتاج تطلع اللي whatever you have in your mind it's no longer being transferred to your hands, which is very easy transferring or transforming process. انت محتاج تطلع اللي في دماغك وتوصله للناس اللي هيبقوا التولز بتاعك, اللي هيبقوا your hands at the end of the day to perform whatever you need to be done. So that's the hard part of leadership. الترانزيشن ده بقى انك تتحول من شخص متعود انك تنفذ كل حاجه بنفسك لشخص محتاج يعتمد على الناس اللي هتنفذ له الامور بعد كده او هتساعده في تنفيذ التاسكس اللي عنده. الترانزيشن ده صعب جدا انك توصل اللي في دماغك للناس. leadership is a very important part. Negotiation. الناس فاكره ان البروجكت خلاص هو ده البروجكت, let's do it and that's it. لا طبعا there is a big part of the project about negotiation and understanding every person's interests and every person's needs and negotiating around it to make sure that we all meet the same on the same page. Influence and persuasion من أهم الحاجات. How you influence people, how to have the convincing skills. انت في الآخر at the end of the day عايز تقنع الناس بالفيجن بتاعتك, عايز تقنع الناس بالطريقة اللي انت بتنفذ بيها البروجكت بتاعك. وطبعا زي ما قلنا project management. Communication. وهنتكلم عليها. Communication is a key element for any success of any project manager. Time management. How would you manage yourself away from distractions? Very important. And of course, stress and anger management. Although you do need project management skills to be a project manager, you don't need to be a project manager to use project management skills. يعني project management skills دي حاجة already كلنا بنستخدمها في حياتنا اليومية. يعني أنت many times you are a leader, even if you're not supervising a team of people, بس at the end of the day there are times where you are a leader when you were a kid among your friends, when you are at your home you are a leader. فنفس البروجكت مانجمنت سكيلز دي هتلاقونا بنستخدمها on a daily basis either at work or in our personal life. So you will find that uses of most of these tools that we discussed today is in your day-to-day life, both personal and professional. I talked to you about يعني شوية بعد ما اتكلمنا على characteristics. Let's take كده a quick interesting piece that was written by Steve Miller عن ازاي 7 habits لمنكم اللي ما يعرفش 7 habits او السبع عادات للناس المؤثرة. ده كان كتاب اتعمل عن طريق او كتب عن طريق واحد مشهور جدا جورو في الهيومن ديفلوبمنت ساينس اسمه ستيفن كوفي. anyways فالكتاب اتكتب اسمه 7 habits of highly effective people. ستيف ميلر خد ال 7 habits of highly effective people وحاول يطبقها على البروجكت مانجرز. فدلوقتي هنتكلم على what could be the 7 habits of highly effective project managers. Number 1 is be proactive. دي نفس الشيء في 7 habits. How to be proactive يعني if you've been granted a front line كده ticket عشان تبص على project management for a long time, you've probably identified 3 main types of project managers. عادة في 3 أنواع من project managers. في accidental project manager. تعالى كريم انت دلوقتي هتبقى بروجكت مانجر البروجكت دوت من غير ما نحضر كريم باي نوع من انواع التجهيز ان انت تبقى جاهز انك تبقى بروجكت مانجر ونفهمه ما هي البروجكت مانجمنت ونجهزه سواء بالنولج سواء بالاندرستاندينج او يكون عنده الاكسبيرينس هاو تو ليد جروب اوف بيبل عشان يبقى بروجكت مانجر. فده بنسميه الاكسيدنتال بروجكت مانجر او البروجكت مانجر الطارئ يعني اللي جت فجاه دي. وهاف كم اب ثرو ذا رانكس. الراجل ده دايما عاده بيبقى شخص تكنيكلي عالي جدا بس للاسف احنا كاورجنايزيشن او كتيم ما جهزناهوش ان هو with the right leadership skills with the right people skills with the right communication skills عشان يقدر في الاخر to handle a project. فعاده بيقع في المشكله ديت بتاعت how would I lead a team in order to get a project done. The second type is good project manager. The good project manager is someone who handles both the knowledge and the management portions of the business. But they tend to be more reactive. يعني على قد ما هو فاهم يعني ايه project management وفاهم يعني ايه how to lead a project, but at the end of the day is a kind of a reactive person. He's being delivered by what's happening around him rather than pushing things to happen. And then we have the most effective one, the proactive project manager. A proactive project manager has plans in place to deal with issues before they occur and stays one step ahead of the client's needs. Usually they set up ways to communicate with everyone involved. وأهم حاجة عندهم يعني a great way to do this is by incorporating team collaboration tools. We respond in real time. Proactive project managers do everything in place to always be prepared for what's coming next. And that's their point of power. تاني حاجة begin with the end in mind. Our second habit of successful project managers is always put your eyes on the end result. Begin with the end in mind. It's very easy for you as a project manager, ladies and gentlemen, to get distracted. من السهل قوي ان انت كبروجكت مانجر في الاخر تشتت بامور كتير بتحدث حواليك سواء inside your team او outside of your team سواء داخل البروجكت بتاعك او outside of your project. It's easy to get distracted. عشان كده دايما always يعني I always mention it to my teams لما نقعد يبقى عندنا مشكله begin with the end in mind. Always look at the end result. What do you need to achieve? ده هيساعدنا كلنا. رقم 1 to share the same goal, the same objective, have some sense of purpose, and more importantly هيساعدنا كلنا to put or to give our input ان احنا نوصل للpurpose ده. In project management, as with anything, it's easy to go into analysis by paralysis. One of the most favorite words I like or terminologies. يعني ايه analysis by paralysis? When you keep analyzing things, لما تقعد تحلل كل شيء بيحصل جامد جدا بتيجي في بوينت وتبقى ستك خلاص انا مش عارف اتحرك ازاي، مش عارف اروح فين. عشان كده بيسموها paralysis by analysis. يعني you get paralyzed لا قدر الله بتشل يعني من كتر الاناليسيس اللي انت بتعملها. But when multiple people take a project and break it down into pieces of their own real estate, sometimes it can get difficult to stay focused on the final picture. زي ما قلنا في أبولو كان مهم إن أنت to break down, but this doesn't mean that you lose focus of your final or end picture. زي ما قلنا في أبولو كان مهم جدا إن أنت تعرف to break down البروجكت بتاعك، بس في الآخر مهم قوي إنك دايما عينك على الend picture. Never lose focus of what you need to achieve, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone's work must come together in the end. Egos must set aside. مش مهم مين صح أو مش مهم مين اللي قال الصح، المهم إن إحنا نوصل للصح. But that's for the greater good, as we say. It's much easier to work together when everyone is focused on the final team outcome عن إن شخص يبقى مركز بس على his own point of view. Put first things first. Always يعني كوفي قال في النقطة ديت أو ستيفن كوفي قال في النقطة ديت always do your big rocks first, your most impactful important things. في رول كده أو في مبدأ مشهور قوي اسمه باريتو رول أو 80-20 rule. Usually 20% of your effort and input would impact 80% of the outcome. You need to find that 20% that affect your project or 20% input that will affect the 80% of your project. That's put first things first. This means you don't allow little distractions and rabbit tails to take you away from what you're doing. يعني, for example, if you have very important items to complete during the day, you should reduce distractions. لو عندك حاجة مهمة ومحتاج تخلصها، يعني أنا usually when I'm writing an important technical prose or writing scope لحاجة جديدة هنبتديها, usually I just get diffused from any other distraction. بحاول أبعد نفسي عن أي distraction. Not even emails, important emails. I just left everything aside عشان أقدر أركز في السكوب اللي هكتبه ده في الآخر. But that's an important thing that you need to stay focused on. Stay away from distraction when you are handling the important aspects of your project. الثلاث habits اللي قلناهم الأول اللي هو be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first. This has all happened inside you as a project manager. This happens أنت بتقدر توصل وتحقق الأمور ديت ليك as a project manager. بس بعد كده بقى الأهم إنك تعرف تاخد الثلاث achievements دول أو ثلاث حاجات أنت حققتهم دول وتقدر بقى تتعامل مع الناس. طيب أول habit في التعامل مع الناس for you as a project manager وأنت دايماً بتتكلم مع أي حد زي ما اتكلمنا عن negotiation as an important characteristic of project manager, think win-win, ladies and gentlemen. حاول دايماً تفكر إزاي نكسب وأساعد الناس تكسب. في مقولة مشهورة بتقول leaders grow leaders. Leaders do not grow followers. أي leader في الدنيا عشان ينجح بيخلي الناس اللي تحتيه يبقوا leaders، بيكبرهم إن هم يبقوا leaders later on. مش بيقعد يركز إن هم يخلوهم followers وexecutors بس. بينفذ من غير ما يفكر. فاكرين من أنجح الحاجات أو اللي ساعدتنا إن إحنا ننجح في أبولو empowering your team. وده ساعدنا إن إحنا نوفركم مشكلة من المشاكل الكبيرة قوي اللي حصلت لأبولو بتاعت إن هم عملوا لاندنج بعيد عن الستريب بتاعهم. Working together with people on a project is a great way to improve your team building skills. It may mean compromising certain strategies. ساعات هتcompromise بعض الأشياء for the greater good of all. If you win and everyone else doesn't, you don't have a team but a dictatorship. لما أنت عادة بتكسب والناس كلها اللي حواليك ما بتنجحش أو ما بتكسبش في الآخر as a team we don't win. In order to create the best possible outcome for your co-workers, clients and superiors, you have to think about your actions, how it will impact a win-win situation. It's often more challenging طبعا. يعني لما بتبقى بتركز انت بس على الانترست بتاعك او النيدز بتاعتك عشان تنجح البروجكت, it's much easier to do this. بس بتبقى challenging اكتر لما انت تفكر بقى في بقيه الناس. طب لما انا هحقق النقطه دي هنجح الباقي ازاي وهكذا. But it's often more challenging. بيبقى اصعب بكتير ان انت to find a win-win scenario. It takes more creativity. محتاجك تفكر بطريقه ثانيه. محتاج تغير المايند سيت بتاعتك وانت شغال. More considerations and more communication than some people want to invest. That's what we need to do. That's think win-win. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. على قد ما البروجكت مانجر هو بيبقى ممكن يكون اكتر شخص عنده الفهم للبروجكت بتاعنا وعنده الطريق اللي هيقدر يوصلنا ان احنا ينجح البروجكت بتاعنا. بس كلنا عارفين مش حد بينجح لوحده. وانت لو عندك البوينتس اوف فيو بتاعتك بس، او عندك البوينتس اللي انت من ناحيتها انت بس بتفكر فيها من وجهة نظرك، عمرك ما هتبقى اقوى من شخص تاني قادر يفهم المجموعه اللي حواليه وقادر يبص على البوينت اوف فيو بتاعت كل واحد. لان ريمبر، انت عمرك ما هتقدر تو كاري اوت كل اسبيكت من البروجكت بنفسك. You always need to look at every person's point of view. كل واحد بيعمل تاسكايه معينه محتاج تبص عليه. ف in some يعني meetings and some frustrating meetings تلاقي كل الناس بتتكلم، يعني حتى طلعوا كونسبت كده اسمه speaking stick او talking stick كده تبقى موجوده في وسطنا as a team، وكل واحد عايز يتكلم نديله الستيك ديت عشان يتكلم، واي حد تاني معهوش ستيك ما يتكلمش. ف it's some kind of a way to make sure that everybody is being listened to and every person is being given the chance to talk and share their point. ف to actively seek to understand something from another viewpoint means not only hearing. مش معنى بس انك بتسمع هو بيقول ايه، انت فعلا عايز تفهم، بتبروسس وتحاول to interpret whatever he has to say. You can do this by asking clarifying questions. ساعات كتير out of courtesy يعني لما حد بيتكلم انت بتبقى شخص ساكت عشان تسمعه. بس do you really process what he's trying to say? Do you really try to understand what he's trying to say? And that's the difference, ladies and gentlemen. مش انك بس تبقى ساكت عشان courtesy كده منك انك تسمع له، بس كمان بتحاول تفهم هو عايز يوصل لك ايه، تفهم هو عايز يقول ايه، وتست his point of view. You can do this by asking clarifying questions. I'm a great believer that leaders and project managers are not the ones who say the right things, but they are the ones who ask the right questions. عادة البروجكت مانجر او الليدر الناجح يا شباب هو الشخص اللي بيعرف يسأل الأسئلة الصح، مش بس اللي بيقول الحاجة الصح. So clarifying questions will always help you to do this. Speak in your own words to make sure you have it correct and let them know that you've been heard. Once someone realizes you are honestly engaged in trying to understand them, trust me, it saves a lot of time for them trying to understand you and for even them trying to meet your expectations. ودي جربتها كتير مع التيم. لما انا بحاول اسمع التيم واحاول افهمه كويس ويحس ان انا فهمته، ده بيخليني امشي 60-70% من المسافه ان اقنعه انا عايز اوصل لايه، وهو ساعتها اللي بيساعدني اوصل له. لان انا كشخص لما الاقي اللي قدامي فهمني فانا هبقى مستعد ان انفذ اللي هو عايز يوصل له، لان انا متاكد ان هو فهمني. Understanding people will make you earn their trust. لما تقعد تفهم الناس وتفهم البوينتس بتاعتهم في الاخر بتكسب ثقتهم، ولما تكسب ثقته هتعرف تخليه يساعدك في البروجكت مان او يخليه في الاخر ينفذ اللي انت عايز توصل له. If you take time to acknowledge everyone in the group no matter what their personality, type of communication style، بيتكلموا ازاي، الباك جراوند بتاعتهم ايه، زي في بعض الاوقات هل هم اجبروا ان هم يخشوا التيم بتاعك ولا لا. لما انت give time to acknowledge their needs and understand them, it's a whole way different way of making things happen. اخر حاجه synergize. Synergy simply means that you can do more as a team. يعني عاده بيستخدموا point بيقول لك 1 + 1 = 3. لان عاده فكره من عندك زي فكره من شخص تاني لما يتحطوا مع بعض ما بيبقوش فكرتين بس. Both of us know ان دوت عاده هيجنريت افكار اكتر بكتير، يعني مش لازم تبقى 3 حتى، ممكن تبقى 5 و6 و7. So some people may fear synergy at first. ساعات الناس بتخاف تشار وتخاف to compromise وتخاف to synergize with others. But no project manager can shy away from the valuable fact that a team will produce a better outcome over the individual, no matter how impressive or knowledgeable. عادة الاوتكم بتاع تيم بيفكر مع بعضه بيبقى انجح بكتير given the fact ان انت عرفت تعمل ميكانيزم والداينامكس في تيم بيعرف فعلا يطلع الاوتبوت ده. تبقى دايما اقوى بكتير انك تفكر لوحدك وتقرر كل حاجه لوحدك do it as a dictatorship زي ما قلنا. طبعا there are some times where there is no time for everyone to put their input. بس 80% or 90% of the time excuse me will be a time where you can bring everyone's input and mold في الآخر some understanding that we all can follow. So be a truly synergetic team, and having a truly synergetic team working in a total harmony will bring more success to the team. Because synergy at the end is the hallmark of maturation. يعني عادة الماتيوريتي بتاعت الشخص والنضوج بتاعت اي شخص بيتشاف قد ايه هو عنده self security و self esteem وقد ايه is willing to synergize with others. That's how we judge if people are mature enough or not. Finally, the seventh habit is sharpen the saw. sharpen the saw ازاي تحد الصوت بتاعك. وهنا ستيفن كوفي ادى قصه ظريفه قوي. قال كان في مره two farmers or wooden cutters، ناس من اللي بتقطع الاشجار، راحوا الغابه عشان يقطعوا بعض الاشجار، وكل واحد معاه المنشار بتاعه التشين سو بتاعه عشان يبداوا يعملوا الشغلانه دي. ف both of them started at the same time، بس كل واحد فيهم خد ابروتش مختلف، خد طريقه مختلفه في التعامل. الاولاني قاعد يقطع في الشجر بدون وقوف خالص، لكن الشخص الثاني had a different approach. He would cut wood one of the trees يعني، وبعد كده اول والثانيه والثالثه، وبعد كده ما يحس ان الصو بتاعه او الحد بتاعه المنشار بتاعه ما بقاش حد كفايه، يروح موقف وقاعد يحد فيه من اول وجديد عشان يتاكد ان هو يقدر يقطع الشجر اسرع. Interestingly, when you take time to make things right, when you just stop and look at everything around you and start enhancing your process and start enhancing the project management process that you have, it definitely makes you go faster. And this is something that has been recognized by a lot of project managers. An interesting thing happened usually, and it can be applied to everyday life in addition to project management, which we neglect things like sleep, stress management, social and relationship strengths. The more powerful your relationship strengths with the project team, it always helps you get things done more efficient. Some great saw sharpening concepts is taking time to ensure everyone on the team understand their specific piece. عادة دايما لما الاقي انا الدنيا ملخبطه عندي في التيم بروح موقف واتاكد من البدايه كده does everybody understand what is expected from them and does everybody understand more importantly الفيجن اللي عايزين نوصل لها ايه. فتلاقيني مثلا بتكلم مع التريننج كوردينيتور واشرح لها انت ليه محتاجه تسلمي السيرتيفيكت في الوقت الفلاني at the end of the day how this will affect us with the end result. يعني ابو حسن محمد الشغب كان بيدي اكزامبل، كنت قاعد بتكلم معاه امبارح، ده اكزامبل قوي جدا ان at the end of the day you need always to put an eye of the end result او سماها حل مشكله العميل، وازاي دايما حل مشكله العميل دي قدامك. لما الناس كلها تبقى فاهمه ان هي دي الفيجن في الاخر هيعرفوا يحطوا الانبوت بتاعهم. فكانت اضافه قويه جدا من ابو حسن محمد الشغب، خلاني افهم البوينت دي حلوه. فدايما take time to ensure that everybody understands. Creating a project plan and framework so everyone stays updated on the work and communication. الفريم ورك مهم. اوعى تبتدي بروجكت وانت مش عارف مين هيعمل ايه ومش حاطط فريم ورك الناس هتتحرك ازاي. Sending people to additional training, making people understand, making people acquire more knowledge. Experiential training kind of thing، يعني تحط الناس في activities وتريننج و on the job training يساعدهم يفهموا ويساعدهم يوصلوا للي هم عايزينه. طبعا اللي هو هيفيدك في الاخر في البروجكت. And making sure everyone is familiar with the guidelines, budgets and rules of project to avoid costly mistakes. This all takes time, but at the end of the day ما احنا اتفقنا sharpen the saw. الراجل اللي بيقطع التريز قاعد sharpen the saw. It will take time, but it will put you back on track and will make you move much faster. that was the module 2. Before we move further, I want to look at the question that you guys have. If you have any questions about that module, please let me know. I'm going to open the Q&A now. So I have the first question from Aziza. Hello, Muhammad. Does Apollo project considered to be a project example of project management life cycle and covers all the project phases? project Apollo طبعا يعني ناس كتير ادعت يا عزيزة ان هو one of the things that laid a lot of the factors for project management and helped a lot of people put some guidelines for project management. الكونسبت نفسه ما كانش موجود قوي ساعتها. ف بالرغم ان ما كانش فيه project management officers، ما كانش فيه selecting criteria for project manager for choosing a project، but at the end of the day it helped understand a lot during the project management and what it's talked about. The second question is I think that was the only question during. Let me give a couple of minutes. If you guys have any question, would you please share it now in the Q&A? Let's take 2 minutes to look at your questions. Right. Meanwhile, we have someone who raised the hand, Abdul Karim Ibrahim. I'll open the mic for you to mention your question and then we can take it. تفضل عبد الكريم. Abdul Karim, you're unmuted now. You can mention your question. You just need to unmute yourself. هتلاقي المايك عندك موجود في البورد بتاعة الزوم. فمحتاج تعمل unmute بس لنفسك يا عبد الكريم. طيب until عبد الكريم can unmute himself. We have someone also asking, would you please explain how to gain leadership skills? I don't have the name, but يعني forever ask this question. Leadership skills is something not only that you learn. It happens through experiences. يعني زي ما قلت وأعيدها تاني. Best teacher is history. When you are put in certain situations and for you to go out of these situations and build leadership skills, ده أقوى حاجة ممكن تتعلم بيها. طبعا في leadership workshops it helps you understand what is leadership about. بس يعني خليني أقول من الحاجات اللي أنا I was involved pretty much in is leadership. Actually my MBA كانت عن evolution of theories in leadership. يعني leadership تطورت جدا من قديم الأزل من the caveman until now. عبد الكريم just give me a minute, I'll be back with you in a minute. من ابتدت في الأول one man show theory إن واحد بس هو اللي يقدر يهندل كل حاجة. بعد كده مر سؤال مهم قوي is leadership or leaders being born. يعني الواحد لازم يبقى born leader وهو لو مش born leader خلاص he cannot acquire such skills. ولا the question of all time people can acquire leadership skills. ففي جزء قال طبعا it's born, you have to be born as a leader. If you have these qualities okay, if you don't طبعا ما تقدرش تبقى leader. وفي ناس قالت لا طبعا everything can be acquired. At the end we found out that leadership can be acquired but you need to have certain qualities. بمعنى ايه؟ في ناس بتتولد بكواليتيز معينه بيبقى اسهل لها انها تبقى leaders، وفي ناس حتى لو ما اتولدتش بالكواليتيز دي والجينetics دي تقدر برضه تبقى leaders، بس الموضوع هيبقى اصعب بالنسبه لها شويه. بس at the end of the day anyone can be a leader. So to answer your question short, simply people can gain leadership skills through understanding leadership in workshops, reading books, and more importantly بالنسبه لي هي الاكسبيرينسز اللي بتمر بيها. انك تسمع للناس، انك تبص على رول مودلز، ده دايما بيساعدك انك تبقى ليدر قوي. من اقوى الحاجات برضو اللي علمتني او ساعدتني في مجال الليدرشيب understanding my leadership pattern، ودي ممكن نتكلم عليها في وقت تاني. اتفضل يا عبد الكريم. عبد الكريم. I still see you muted. Okay. But we'll give more time for questions at the end, but that was module 2. Moving to module 3. Module 3 is more of يعني a technical part. هنتكلم على شوية terminologies موجودة في البروجكت مانجمنت. فبعد ما فهمنا او بعد ما مررنا سريعا، طبعا احنا زي ما اتفقنا ده is a very fundamental session بتتكلم على البروجكت مانجمنت بشويه insights without going into depth بصراحه. فزي ما مرينا سريعا ما هو البروجكت وما هو البروجكت مانجمنت، واتكلمنا على البروجكت مانجرز والكاركترستكس والهابتس بتاعتهم. تعالوا نبص على شويه كونسبتس ليها علاقه بالبروجكتس والبروجكت مانجمنت. فده الموديول اللي هنبص عليه على البروجكتس دي. طيب one of the most important institutions, if not the most important, is PMI, Project Management Institutions, that has put it's a global association for the project management profession since being founded سنة 69 في نفس السنة اللي حصل فيها اللانش بتاع أبولو. We have been at the forefront of working with businesses to create project management standards. ازاي نحط project management standards techniques that work. فده core ideas او بعض المبادئ الاساسيه اللي عندهم. رقم واحد زي ما قلت لكم الفاونديشنال بوك بتاع البي ام اي اسمه Project Management Body of Knowledge. Every piece of concept، يعني خلينا on a conceptual level، على level مفهومي موجود في الكتاب ده. It's very powerful. And we'll discuss it in a bit. وفي 5 process groups اللي بتاخدنا من one process to the other. We'll also talk about it. وفي 10 knowledge areas that PMBOK focus on أو project management body of knowledge focus on. طيب لو هنبتدي بالprocess the project management body of knowledge. It's the PMI زي ما قلت لكم foundational book and includes a detailed overview of the processes and knowledge areas promoted by the PMI. The standards of the PMI والguidelines the PMI شايفاها هامة. The best practices. طبعا there is no one case that fits all. ودايما خد المبدأ ده في البيزنس. مفيش كيس واحدة هتنفع او مفيش سيناريو واحد هينفع تطبقه على كل او مفيش حل واحد هينفع تطبقه على كل السيناريوز اللي عندك. بس في best practices لكل حاجه في البروجكت مانجمنت. It is a global standard that allows consistent procedures. بيبقى عندنا شويه consistency في procedures, methods, processes to be applied. عنده measurement tools هايله بتساعدك جدا. Was the guide is built around 5 process groups and 10 knowledge areas، وهو ده اللي هنتكلم عليه دلوقتي. طيب لو بصينا على 5 process groups احنا we'll go through them quickly now. Maybe later on we'll have time to go through them. The 5 process groups. Initiation. لما تيجي تبتدي اي حاجه في حياتك هم نفس الستيجز دي او 5 process groups. رقم واحد initiation. You initiate something, you start something, you start an idea for a project. Then the planning. Start planning وهنتكلم على ده in more details. Execution, how to execute it, monitoring and controlling, and finally is closing. These processes from the core structure of any project, although they are illustrated here as a continuous process, they can also overlap and interact through a project. ساعات كتير مش معنى ان انت عشان تبتدي process بتخلص اللي قبلها. يعني planning and execution can overlap. Execution, monitoring and controlling definitely they overlap and so on. كان في برضو البروجكت مانجمنت 10 knowledge areas. وال 10 knowledge areas دول من اكتر الحاجات excuse me just give me a minute. من اكتر الحاجات اللي بتساعد الناس اللي في البروجكت مانجمنت ان هم what to focus on. فزي ما انتم شايفين عندنا الانتجريشن وبتتكلم على البروجكت تشارتر، البروجكت مانجمنت بلان، البروجكت how to manage the project work, manage the project knowledge and so on. وعندنا السكوب، ومن اهم الحاجات اللي بنبتدي بيها هو السكوب. ازاي to plan scope management، ازاي to collect the requirements, define the scope, create WBS, validate the scope and how to control the scope. وعندنا السكادجولينج، وفضلا محمد الشغب صلح لي ده بعد ما كان عندي الاولد version that they used to call time, they now call it schedule, 6th version. So planning, schedule, management, define activities, sequence how activities will sequence, estimate activity duration, develop schedule, control the schedule, and then we have cost, one of the important areas of knowledge. How to plan the cost management, estimate cost and determine the budget, control costs, quality, plan quality and management, manage quality and control quality. We have the stakeholder, a very important element. Without it, you cannot success if you don't have focus on your stakeholders. Who are your stakeholders? Identify them. Plan stakeholder engagement, how much they are engaged with you. And their engagement is important. Manage stakeholder engagement and monitor stakeholder engagement. Then we have the procurement, plan procurement management, conduct the procurements, control procurements. Risk, a very important element again in the project management. How to plan risk management, how to identify those risks, how to mitigate those risks, how to do the qualitative and quantitative risk analysis. من ناحية الquantity ومن ناحية الquality ازاي تقدر تعمل ده. Communication and resources. I don't want to take more time, so that's conclude again what we've been talking about for the fundamentals of project management. One more element is the triple constraint that we talked about earlier without going into depth. So let's have again give 2 minutes if you guys have any questions. If you need to raise your hands, we can make you ask those questions. We'll give 5 minutes for that. I'm trying. We still have only Abdul Karim. I think one of the questions, can you please repeat point 7? Can I answer it live? What do you mean by point 7? If you're talking about sharpen the saw, our 7th habit, you go back to it. Sharpen the saw again is all about taking time to make time. بمعنى انك لما تبقى محتاج تقف عشان تقيم الدنيا حواليك وتساعد وتنهانس البروسيسز اللي عندك وتنهانس التيم. يعني one of the very important things of sharpen the saw زي ما اتفقنا training. انت ساعات كتير محتاج تقف وتتعلم انت محتاج تعمل الشيء ده ازاي من غير ما تخش فيه. بس ساعات كتير مننا عشان العجله دايره ما بنحبش نقف. فشاربن ذا سو زي بالظبط كده القصه ان حد وهو مثلا قاعد يقطع في الاشجار محتاج يقف ويحد الشفره بتاعته عشان يكمل بطريقه اقوى. في حد تاني يقول لك لا انا مش عايز اقف احد، انا عايز افضل مكمل عشان اوفر الوقت. فهي دي فكره sharpen the saw. I hope I answered it clearly. I think that concludes it for today. Nasser, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. I hope it was not long enough, and I hope it was interesting enough for you. So Nasser, if you want to take it over for the closing notes.
Yeah, I thank you, Mohammed, for these main concepts of project management. Of course, there are a few questions that are related to maybe the PMI. Maybe I can take a few of them. So one is questioning, I took the PMP course and I wanted your help to tell me where can I practice the certificate before I took the international test. So there's in the PMI website, there is a section that says the best ways for training for the course. So I advise you to visit the PMI website and going to a section that explains the 5 best ways to train for the course. Another question is, what are the main certifications that we have? من الأخ أحمد يمكن يقول ما هي الشهادات المهنية في مجال إدارة المشاريع. طبعا again ال PMI website فيه section اسمه certifications. You can go and visit that section where it lists all the certifications offered by PMI. PMI certificates are one of the top known certificates in the project management industry. You can visit the website and hopefully get more information about each one and its requirements and how to study for them. We thank you all, and I also would be very happy and delighted if you join our project management community. And also we're very happy to receive your comments, your suggestions for improvement that we look forward to really provide you more webinars and more training that can help you. I thank you all for your time today. Of course, whoever is looking forward to the PDU that will be offered for this session, we have your email that you registered in, and we will be sending the PDU claim to that email that you registered through. Again, I thank you all, and I thank you, Mr. Mohammed, for this brief presentation. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Shukran. شكرا أخ محمد.
Oh, the broadcast is over, so. Okay.
تسألني يا محمد؟
Should I wait until everyone leaves? Or no?
Yeah, let me